is we're going to do kind of two things. We're going to do table and graphs for our Piecewise. Then we're going to stop, take a little bit of practice, and then we're going to do writing the equations from the Piecewise, okay? Because the two concepts go way together, hand in hand, and I think we can get through all of it today with you guys understanding it. So I figured we'll try it, and if it doesn't work, life is good. Okay, so we're going to make a table of values and then sketch our graph, okay, over the specified domain. Now, go back in the memory banks, what's your definition of a domain? Emma, why are you giggling? You don't know it? What's a domain?
X.
Yeah, all your X values. Okay, so if you're looking at the very first equation, what would our domain be for the first equation? It would be, we have X is greater than or equal to -5, but X is less than 2. So if you think about your number line, we have a solid dot at -5 and an open dot for 2. So isn't that our domain right there? That basically is all the numbers. So these constraints that we were talking about, that's basically what your domain's going to be. That's all the area that we're using for that piecewise. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's make a table so that then we can graph each of the domains. So I put the points in for the first equation. So if our X is -5, because we're going from -5 to 2, and our f of x is 2x, that would be 2 times -5, which would give me -10. Do you agree with that? And then if we do 2 times -3, we would get -6. And 2 times 0 is going to be 0. And 2 times 1 is 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, now let's graph those points to create our piecewise graph. Yo.
Maybe the other one.
What do you mean?
I need to hear
For 2.
For 2. Oh, I gotcha. Oh, because it's not equal to. You're right. So we can't have that. Well, it's going to be at 4. What's the difference going to be? It's going to be the open circle. Yeah.
It says right there, it says use the points below for the first equation.
Yeah.
So wouldn't we still use the first equation?
That is the 2x?
Yeah.
That's what.
So wouldn't it still be 4?
Yeah, it is going to be 4. His point was that the 2 is included in the second equation, but since my domain is everything less than 2, I'm going to go to the 2, but I'm going to use an open circle. So it is still going to be the 4.
So then it's still
And the first one, since it's included, we're going to use a closed circle. Does that make sense, Scott? Okay. All right, so let's plot those. So I'm at -5 and -10, and that was a closed dot. And then I have -3 and -6 is going to be a point there. 0, 0. And 1, 2. And then at 2, 4, I got an open circle. Okay? Now, I can connect. And that's my first equation. Does that make sense? Okay, so for my second equation, it's going to be from 2 with a closed circle to 6 with a closed circle. And the answer is just going to be 5 for every single point. Do you agree with that? Because f of x is 5. So using my ordered pairs of 2, 5, and it's going to be a closed circle. So I'm at 2, 5. And then 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5. And then 2, 6 is also closed. And that's going to be, what? Question?
Just trying to teach him out here. Not understanding it, so.
All right. All right. Okay, so answering their questions. All right, we graphed all the ordered pairs. Perfect. How many pieces does our graph have? 2, right? Why does it have 2 pieces? Because there's 2 equations. Exactly. Okay. Are the pieces rays or segments? Ooh, what's a ray? It's what?
It has a starting point, but it doesn't end.
Ooh, oh, yes. Okay, well, okay, so the ray is basically that right here. So he's has an endpoint and never ends. So has the arrow on the other end. Perfect. So then what's a segment? Endpoint has 2 endpoints. Perfect. So are 2 pieces rays or segments? Segments. Perfect. Because they both have endpoints. Okay. Are my endpoints solid dots or open dots or some? Yeah. And we actually kind of already talked about that because it includes or doesn't include. Perfect. Now, were all the x values necessary to graph, or could have been graphed using less points? For like the very first one. Could we have graphed it using less points? I see head shaking, yes. Why do you think so? Am I? Yeah. You could have used, because they're all going to be linear, so could have used the 2 endpoints. Perfect. So which x values were critical? The endpoints. It's nice to have maybe a middle value just to verify. But you don't really have to. Okay, good so far? Easy peasy? Good, Emma? Are you awake this morning? You look awake. Comparatively speaking. Okay. So, let's graph this function. For my first one, x plus 3, and I'm going from -8 to 1. Am I going to have open dots or closed dots? Yeah, the -8's going to be closed, the 1's going to be open. So what values do you want to use? for the first equation? We can pick and choose any one we want. Which one do you want to use? Kayla, give me one number to pick and choose for the very first one. Sure, let's use 1. Okay, so then 1 plus 3 is going to give me 4. Perfect. And that's going to be an open, so over 1 and up 4. That'll work. Kaylee, give me a second number. 2? 2's outside. For the first. Negative 2? Okay, so negative 2 plus 3 is going to give me a positive 1. So negative 2, 1's a point. What's my third point should be? Negative what? Why 7? But I only want to do 3 points. Should be negative 8, yeah, because it's the other end point. So negative 8 plus 3 gives me negative 5, and that one's going to be a closed dot. So negative 8, negative 5. And there's my first one. Good. All right, let's do the second function. And this one I'm going from 1 to 7. They're both going to be closed dots. I only have 2 more spaces in my table, so what 2 numbers do I have to do? 1 and 7. Okay, so 10 minus 2 gives me 8. So over 1 and up 8. And 10 minus 2 times 7 gives me negative 4. So 7, negative 4. And there's my piecewise. Okay. For the very first one, what's my domain? We'll do it in set notation. Go back into your memory banks. Remember? X such that, what's the domain going to be for the first one? That's it. Negative 8's less than or equal to x less than 1. So what's my domain going to be in the second one? 1 less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 7. Good? How do you feel about those? All right, let's do a couple practice. All right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Let's try and work these out. See if it's going to take you that long while I do my key. How's that sound?
questions for each one.
I did too. Is that what you guys got for the first one? Did I do that right? Yeah.
How do you know when you use like an open circle or a closed circle?
If if it's an open circle, then it's less than or greater than. If it is a closed circle, it includes the point, so it's less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. So for instance, this part right here, and x is equal to -3, so I use a closed dot. On this part here, x is less than 0, so at 0 we'll use an open dot. Better? Okay. How about, okay, so on my segments, I knew they were segments, okay? When are you going to have rays? When do you think you're going to have rays? Huh? When it's going to infinity, okay? So like in the bottom one. The bottom one, I have that x is less than or equal to 2. Okay? So that means that when it's any number less than 2, and so therefore I have a ray. Okay? There's not two specific numbers. It's just it's less than 1. Yes, sir?
Would it be greater than 2? For the because x is greater than
Okay.
yeah.
I love when I can understand. I actually understood your thought process as you reasoned it out in your head. So, yeah, I get it. Okay. Now, for the second one, I knew it was going to be an arrow going to infinity, but since it was a line, I actually picked. Hey, Corey, let me give you the notes that we're going to do next. I'll have a video online. I don't know how far we'll get, but hopefully we'll get some. Cool. Tell your mom I appreciate her making you come for a half hour so you didn't miss class. So I did 3 because it was greater than 2, and I did 2 to see where my starting point was. But that honestly didn't really give me enough to see the direction of my error. So I went ahead and picked another number and said, okay, I just want to be able to get one more point so I have a better feel for the line. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. To the first one? Is this making sense to you guys? Yes? Easy peasy? Kind of lemon squeezy? Alrighty then. Let's